Well, hello everyone. I thought I would do a video today on water culture for Phalenopsis orchids. I've had many questions here recently from people who are trying water culture for the first time, or they've been trying it for a while and they're having some difficulties. So I thought I would go ahead and go over some questions with you and answer those just as I go along. And yeah, let's get right to it. This is going to be a really fun one on water culture Phalenopsis orchids. And here is this little Phalenopsis that I have had in water culture now for about 2.5 years. It is doing really well. She is spiking, as you can see, and the buds are just now starting to set. So I can't wait to share this one with you when it blooms. Okay, so first question, do you have to fertilize orchids that are in water culture? My answer is yes. I highly recommend you fertilize your orchids in water culture. What happens is there is no media here to retain any nutrients, and you have to really become an expert at fertilizing. I did not fertilize my water culture Phalaenopsis orchids for a while, and they started to decline. So I did a test on this one. I started letting it soak in fertilizer water all of the time, and it just started really thriving. Let me show you the plant and you'll see what I mean. Here's what the plant looks like. It has 7 beautiful leaves. This leaf right here is the one that just grew, and it is longer than the others. So that means that this Phalaenopsis is happy. It has been fertilized well, and it likes its water culture routine. When you're growing in water culture, you can't just look at the roots. The leaves are so very important. If you've got beautiful roots and you don't have good leaves, then that is not optimum. That is not what you're wanting to see. You're wanting to see the overall health of the plant in any method that you grow it in. And while we're on the subject of leaves, let's go on to the next question. Can I place an orchid with no leaves in water culture? No. A Phalaenopsis orchid that does not have leaves, that is pretty much the end of that plant. I have heard of some people actually bringing them back, but not very many, and they have told me that it took a long time. So you would just have to be so very patient. From my point of view, I have such a large collection that I don't have the time to spend that much time on just one plant. If you're a very patient person, you could wait and see. But what happens is the leaves are where photosynthesis takes place for the plant. So the leaves may, but they probably will not grow back in that instance. Okay, and here's another really good question about leaves. What if the Phalaenopsis only has 2 leaves? In other words, I've had this one in water culture for a while and it is down to 2 leaves. Okay, I'll tell you what's happened. It hasn't been fertilized well enough, and it has just been eating the leaves. It's been ingesting the nutrients that are in those leaves so that it will be able to sustain itself. Okay, now I'm showing you a different plant. This is my Phal Intensity, and that is what happened with this plant. I had this one in water culture at one time. As you see now, it's in New Zealand sphagnum moss. But the root system looked very healthy on this one, but it only had 2 leaves. It just kept losing leaves. So instead of losing the entire plant about 1.5 years ago, I placed this one in New Zealand sphagnum moss, and now it is growing its 6th leaf. So what I highly recommend you do is, if you see that your plant is losing leaves in water culture, then I recommend you place that one in New Zealand sphagnum moss. New Zealand sphagnum moss is a wonderful medium to grow in because It absorbs water very easily. It keeps your plant hydrated, and also it retains nutrients very well. So if you've got a plant that is recuperating, that is the perfect medium to use. So what I finally learned, I'm back to my water culture phal here. What I finally learned with this Phalenopsis is that when I allow my water culture phals, like this one, to set in fertilizer all the time, I don't ever give this one a break. It needs all the fertilizer it can get. I have a video from last month where I go over my fertilizer regimen with you, and you can watch that. I'm going to place a link in the description box to that video. Since I have been fertilizing my water culture Phalenopsis really, really well, it has been thriving. It's been keeping its leaves. It's been growing new leaves. That's the thing you have to ask yourself. Do the roots look good? Do the leaves look good? And are there more leaves growing? The question isn't just, am I maintaining the leaves that I have? That's good. But am I gaining a leaf or two or three every year? Is it spiking and blooming for me? If you're answering no to any of those questions, then you really need to place that orchid back into a medium of your choice. Okay, and here's another really good question. Can I use water culture as a short-term method? Yes, that is a very good idea. Sometimes you have an orchid and it doesn't have many roots after you take it out of the initial bark that you bought it in, and you just don't have any root system. You can place those in water culture for a week or two or even 3 and get some roots going before you place it into some New Zealand sphagnum moss. I've done that and it does work, and I highly recommend that. And I always try to show you the water culture level that this orchid really does like. This is pretty much the amount of water, fertilizer water, that it stays in 3 days in a row. I do this 3 days in a row, and then it has a dry day. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is how I do my fertilizer or my soaking schedule with my water culture Phalenopsis orchids. Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, they are in the water. Then Thursday, I'm going to dry it. Pardon me, I'm going to drain the vase, and then it's going to sit out dry until Friday. And then I'm going to refill the vase, and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's going to soak in the fertilizer water again. And then on Monday, I'm going to drain the vase, and it's going to have another dry day. So it's a 3 days wet, 1 day dry cycle. And I need to add that this is wintertime, and my heating system is cutting on really often. So that's the reason why I'm soaking it so much. In the spring and in the fall, when the temperatures are more mild and my heating system doesn't cut on very much, I might do a 2 day dry, 2 day wet cycle. And here's another question that I got that is very applicable for this video. What is the easiest way to start with the water culture method for growing Phalenopsis orchids? This is my recommendation. Start with one orchid, preferably a new purchase that hasn't been in your home for very long. A new purchase is a really good idea. Not your favorite orchid. Please don't go and put your very favorite orchid that you've had for 10 years in water culture. It's not going to work. I don't think you're going to like the end result. And use one that you can easily replace. Let's say a white Phalenopsis that you can easily find. That is a really good place to start with water culture. But I don't recommend you place your whole collection in water culture at one time. For one thing, it's a lot of work. That first month is a lot of work for water culture orchids. You have bark or moss that is slowly coming off of those roots, and you have to clean the vases more often that first month. But also, you need to see if you like the method and if your orchid's going to like the method as well. What I have seen in the past 3 years in growing in waterculture and showing you waterculture on my channel for almost 3 years, some people love the method and do so well in it. And then some people, they just don't like it at all, and they all have to go back into bark or moss. There's not a lot of in between. That's the interesting thing about this growing method. So I just want you to have a heads up on that. And I will be keeping you posted on this little Phalenopsis that's in waterculture. Can't wait until it blooms. And you all just have a highly favored, deeply loved, and greatly blessed day. And we'll talk to you next time.